FL10s False Lights Seaham is a project inspired by the George Elmy lifeboat disaster in 1962, which was in the Seaham lifeboat. It's a particularly interesting story when I started looking into the maritime history of the East Durham coastline and talking to people in Seaham. It's become a really fascinating journey through which I've travelled with the different people who've been working on the project in the region. The George Elmy itself has had a particularly interesting life. It was a Liverpool-class lifeboat, which unfortunately in 1962 went out to rescue some people on the fishing coble called Economy. And the 5 people from the fishing boat joined the George Elmy, and on very close to the harbour walls, just by the foot of the lighthouse. Unfortunately, it was hit by a wave from the side and capsized, and 9 of the 10 people on board were killed. The George Elmy, after that, there was a lot of rumours that the lifeboats were burnt on the beach after an incident like that. But in this case, it wasn't. It was returned to service, and it went on to be a lifeboat in a different part of the country. Everyone assumed the boat had disappeared, and then many years later, it came up for sale, and a restoration team actually found it for sale and have brought it back to Seaham. Finally restored it to its former glory as this beautiful handcrafted lifeboat. FL10s comes from the background of a previous project I did called False Lights of Durham, which looked at the lighthouses and the patterns the lighthouses operate at within the Tees and the Tyne. And this is the first project I've been able to really focus on one of those lighthouses in particular, and it's the Seaham Lighthouse, which has the pattern of one flash every 10 seconds, hence the name FL10s. That's the way it's described in the Admiralty List of Lights. During the process of developing the piece, I've spoken to a lot of people in the area, people with personal memories of people who've lost friends and family members in the incident. And their memories and their descriptions of the project have helped me form the structure and form the instrument and build the composition as well. In terms of the structure of the instrument, it's a series of crosses that twist along the length of the instrument. And the inspiration behind that was the thought of being out on a boat looking back at the shoreline, and at that point in time there were the coal staithes which would have lined the Seaham shore, which was where the trains brought coal to bring from the collieries to the seafront. These were constructed of a series of cross forms which would have been quite intimidating, quite imposing on a view on the seafront, and so I wanted to do something which represented that view back to the shore, but also something that twisted and represented this motion, this rolling motion, which would have, that would have been the experience of the people on board the George Elmy as the wave caught it and caused the boat to capsize. The materials we've used as well are very much inspired by that. So the oak frame is inspired by the oak ribbing that the George Elmy was built from. The composition also takes, I guess, its mathematical approach from the story, the narrative of the George Elmy. So the installation composition is 10 minutes long, and it starts with the point at which the Economy, the fishing coble, goes out to sea, and ends just before the point at which the George Elmy is washed ashore. There are different sections during that, and they each represent different parts of the story, pieced together from personal narratives and from the coroner's report of the timeline of what happened on the event. So we have sections that are in sections of 5 and 4, 9 and 10, depending on the actions of the people in the boats, and there are points where the boats come together and the different parts of the narrative are represented numerically through the way the music's been developed. The installation is at its heart an instrument. It's a series of 10 orchestral bell plates, which are these tuned steel plates. As they resonate, they create a tone. They're tuned, so they range from the tone C2 to C4 on a piano. And so there are no speakers involved. All the sound comes directly from the steel plates resonating. The original idea for working with bell plates came from the sound of ships in a storm. There were like the sound of bells moving as the wind gets up, and then trying to turn that into something that was a little bit more industrial and a bit more tangible, so we went for these steel plates. And the way I wanted to control them was not to have them as a percussive instrument, not to have them something so with such a hard attack, but something that was more gentle. So the idea was to use electromagnets which turn on and off at the resonant frequencies of the plates. This means that gradually, as power is sent to the electromagnets, they cause the steel plate to resonate, and that creates a hum or a drone, and each one has a different tone that it creates. Working on this project as part of the East Durham Creates programme has been a really exciting opportunity, and something that's really helped develop the work. I think one of the best things about it is the way that I've been able to work closely with people within the community in Seaham and find out very personal stories and very personal details about the George Elmy story.